Good morning. I am coming to you on Christmas Eve and I'm sharing a recipe with you for rum cake. So I'm going to get my stuff together and I'll be back with you as soon as possible. Okay, so let's get started with the rum cake. The first thing it asks for is for me to add my dry ingredients, which is weird because usually you mix your butter and sugar together before you do any of that. So what I'm going to add is my 2 cups of flour, my 1.5 cups of sugar, my instant pudding, and my baking powder and salt. And what I'm going to do is just stir this around to make sure it's mixed. So when I add the butter in and it starts to crumble, it'll be all mixed up. Okay, so let's add all that. I'll put this away so it's not in the way. Okay, so this is my butter. It says to add 8 tablespoons of butter, which is basically a stick. So what I'm going to do is just unwrap it, and instead of putting it in there in a whole chunk, I'm going to break it down into tablespoon sizes so that it mixes a little better. So I'm going to cut this up. And this is an interesting cake. It's very, very good and very, very moist. I think what makes it moist is the pudding. So, there goes my butter. So, what it says to do is to blend this on low. That don't look like low. Blend it on low until your batter becomes chunky. So I'm going to go ahead and blend this on low, and I'll be back to show it to you. Okay, so it said to use your mixer to blend it in until the dough, well, the flour and stuff became kind of grainy. So what I did is I used a pastry cutter to do that with because it was throwing flour all over the place. So what I'm going to continue to do is to add my milk and my oil. Okay, then it says to add 1 egg at a time. So let me get the eggs. Alright, so let's start adding our eggs. 1 at a time. Okay, so that's 1 egg. Then I put a shell in. Let's get the shell out of there. Me and eggs just don't mix. Okay, so that's 1 egg. Let's beat. So let's add another egg. This time I can do it without a shell. Okay. So let's add another egg, which I'm checking just to make sure, 4 large eggs. And I like to break my eggs into a cup, because then if it does get a shell or anything else, you can get it out. So, that's egg number 3. Add egg number 4. And this is such a good cake. I've made it before, and it's very moist. You will love it. So let's add our last egg. And I'm mixing. Okay, so I preheated my oven to 325, and okay, so now I'm going to add my half a cup of rum, which is this Cotton and Reed. I think it's a DC brand. So that's a half a cup of rum. And then to this rum, I'm going to add 2 teaspoons of vanilla. The best vanilla in the world. Watkins. Hit me up in the comment sections if you want to know how to get it. So that's 1. And that's 2. Put that over there. And I'm going to awfully good, and it smells delicious. So I'm going to set my mixer over here and unplug it so that it doesn't go off and throw stuff everywhere. So I'm just going to scrape the bowl on the sides to make sure everything's mixed really well. And as I said, I've preheated my oven on 325, and I could do it in a pretty cake pan, but I prefer this one. So what I'm going to do is to pour this mixture into the pan. It's a good looking mixture, I tell you. Plus, I think the other pan would have been too small. There. Let's get our batter scraped off of our scraper. I don't want to leave any out. So what I'm going to do is put this in the oven at 325 for 50 to 60 minutes, it says. But before I do that, I'm going to take this and shake it around. And then I also let it fall, so if there's any air bubble in there, that gets out. Okay, so I'm going to put this in the oven, and once it gets done, I'll be back because it also has a rum syrup that you pour over it. So I'll get this in the oven. When it gets done, I'll be back. Okay, just took the cake out of the oven. Let's see if it's done and ready for the sauce. Yep, it's coming out real clean. Very good. And you know what? You can get cake testers to test your cake to see if they're ready to be cooled. But I just used a spaghetti. And that's all. So what I'm going to do is take the cake and put it over here on the rack so we can start making the syrup to go on the cake. So I have my pan here, and I'm going to mix everything in here except for my vanilla. So that's like a half a cup of water. And to that I'm going to add my stick of butter. This is such a good cake. It really is. Okay, so I'm adding my stick of butter. And then I'm going to add a cup of sugar. And a half a cup of rum. And this is just white rum. It's not spiced or anything. It's just plain old rum. So what I'm going to do is let that start to cook so that the butter... Okay, so what I'm going to start to do is just stir it until it starts to cook down. And it's a lot of syrup. So what you're going to wind up doing is melting this down to the syrup, and then you're going to poke holes in your cake, and you're going to pour this over the cake while it's in the pan to soak up the syrup. And then basically what you do is you let it set overnight, and then you take it out of the pan the next day. And if the syrup has cemented the cake into the pan, what you're going to do is turn your oven on warm, put your cake in there, and that will loosen up the syrup, and then you'll be able to take it out very easily. So I'm going to go ahead and let me let you see. I'm cooking the syrup. That's what it looks like now. And once it gets ready to go on the cake, I'll be back with you. Okay, so the sauce is ready to be turned off. I'm going to give it one last stir. And then it says at this point to add your vanilla. And you just let it boil for like 6 to 8 minutes, and this is what you get. So it says until it thickens, and it's pretty thick. So what I'm going to do is pour 1/4 cup of the syrup in here, being careful not to pour it on myself. Okay, so with this 1/4 cup of syrup, I think I'll bring the cake over here. Hold on. There we go. So, here's my cake. And what I'm going to do, what I'm going to do is poke holes in my cake with this so that it has holes. I'm just going to poke holes all around like so. Making sure to get enough holes in there. Okay. And then what I'm going to do with this wonderful syrup that I made, see the holes in the cake? With this wonderful syrup, I'm just going to pour it over the cake while it's in the pan so that it can start to soak into the cake like so. Okay. And then what I'm going to do after that first cup, you just continue to pour onto the cake until you have it all the syrup poured in. And what this is going to do is it's going to soak into the cake. Okay, so that was 2 cups. And then this is the last cup right here. Which I'm going to pour over the cake, letting it soak in. And then once I finish pouring all the syrup in, I'm just going to set the cake aside and let it finish cooling. And then what I'll do is wrap it up and let it sit overnight. And then I'll come back to you tomorrow when we get ready to cut it. Good morning, everybody. Merry Christmas. And I am up and ready to do the reveal of the big rum cake. So let me turn this around. I took it out of the oven last night and I put the syrup on it. I think you saw that part. To give it a try. Well, I left some in there, but
yeah, you left some in there.
But that's okay. Okay. So they say the best way to eat this is with coffee. So I'm having coffee. So let's give it a try. I'm telling you, I've made this cake before, and this is the best rum cake that you can make.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So, like, share, and subscribe. Enjoy your day. Hi, Steve.
Hello.
Enjoy your day and have a Merry Christmas.